So this first one, what is the axis of symmetry? That's that vertical line that splits the graph in half. So it's going to be x equals something. Bless you. So using words like up, down, left, right, how did this graph shift?
Down 2.
Well, yeah, down 2 and left 9. So the down 2, I want you to know that, but that doesn't change where the center is. It's the fact that it went left 9. So if it went left 9, where's the center? Yep, x equals -9. Good. All right, vertex of this graph. You want to do the same kind of thing. So like, how did this one shift? Yeah, right 5, up 8. So if you go right 5, up 8, then your center is at 5, 8. And yes, that's all you need to be able to do. Range. I would draw a little picture. It doesn't need to be perfect. It's not like the Mona Lisa, okay? But like just a real quick sketch, all right? This one moved what direction? Up 4. So you're going to go up 4, put a point. It did not move left or right, so just up 4. And then it's going to be upside down because of the negative. So it'll be something like this. All right, so when you do range, it's downwards to upwards. So it's going to be -infinity up to what number? 4, good. Bracket or parenthesis? Yeah, bracket, because there's actually a number there. If it was an asymptote, that's where you get a parenthesis. All right, x and y intercepts. Let's do the y-intercept first because it's a whole lot easier. You can just look at it and state what the y-intercept is. What's your y-intercept of that one? Yeah, 3. So you can just like look at it and go, oh, it's 3. The x-intercept, you're going to have to factor and set it equal to 0. So those involve like work, okay? But this one's not too bad. It'll be x and x, and then what? 3 and 1, good. And then your symbols are both plus. So when you set those equal to 0, good, -3 and -1. Question? Yeah, go ahead. Bless you.
I don't understand how you do
The factoring? So the x squared splits x times x. The 3 splits 3 times 1. The reason they're both plus is 3 plus 1 gives you 4 in the middle. And then when you set them both equal to 0, like if you set x plus 3 equal to 0, you get -3. If you set x plus 1 equal to 0, you get -1.
So how did you get the y?
If you plug in 0 for x, these are going to be gone. So it's just 3. The y-intercept's always just going to be that leftover number at the end. Or in like, if you're thinking of them as A, B, and C, the y-intercept is always C.
Is there 2 y-intercepts or just the one?
The reason, that's a good question. Y'all listening? The reason you cannot have 2 y-intercepts is if your graph intersected the y-axis twice, what would happen? What would that fail? Yeah, your vertical line test, it wouldn't be a function. So you can never have 2 y-intercepts. There'll always only be 1 or none. Go ahead. So if you draw a vertical line through your graph and it hits more than once, it's not a function. Fails to be a function.
Will there be a case that define the x-intercept, but it's not like this when you're stating with range?
Yeah, like this one, we had to factor to get it.
But I mean, like for the y, like we're just looking for y.
You just plug in 0. You just plug in 0 and whatever you get is your y-intercept.
So like if 3 wasn't there, we would just put 0 in there and 0.
Yeah, like you would, like for example, say you needed to get the y-intercept of this one. You would plug in 0 and see what you get. So 0 plus 9, everybody. 9 squared, 81 minus 2 is 79. So if it's in that other format, just plug in 0. 0 is an easy number to work with because it's 0. And then just whatever you get is the answer. But if it's written in this format, yeah, it's just going to be that leftover number. Because if these x's are 0, you get 0 plus 0 plus 3. It's just going to be 3. Cool. That is what should happen when people ask questions. Do you see how everybody stayed quiet while I answered the questions and you benefited from hearing the answer? When someone asks a question, don't just like zone out. You might benefit from hearing the answer. Give me a chance to do my job and answer all their questions. Good job. All right, I would draw a graph for this one too. Again, not perfect. It's like doesn't need to be perfect or exact. It's just that you have a visual. How did this one shift? Left 5 and down 1. So left 5, down 1. And does it face up or down? Yeah, down because of the negative. So again, that's not perfect or beautiful. Like it's just a visual so I can see what's going on. I'm being asked where the graph is decreasing. So just watch me point to this. It decreases from here, which is what number? -5 onwards. So it is -5 to infinity. If you're like, hey, Miss Cole, why isn't it negative infinity? Because I know half of you are thinking that right now. Remember, we go negative infinity to positive infinity. On the right is positive infinity. So it's -5 to positive infinity. Yes, what she said, decreasing in terms of x. Well said. I saw another hand though. Go ahead. Nope, that's reflect over x. It's upside down.
For range though, would it be?
Range on this one would be negative infinity to -1 with a bracket because there's actually a point there.
So I would use. Wait, sorry. Oh wait, I see what you're talking about.
You just changed the problem on us. This says decreasing. If you change it to range, it's asking something totally different.
No, I didn't mean range. I meant the increase.
Oh, increasing would be negative infinity to -5.
So no matter increase and decrease.
It's left to right.
You just use the -5 because sometimes I mix that up.
Yes, it's well, can you say what you said again? In terms of x. I like how you said that. In terms of x. So that's why I always do negative infinity, positive infinity. It's left to right. All right, extreme means maximum or minimum. It needs to be in vertex form. This is what you did on your quiz. We're going to complete the square. So copy down the first two terms. I'll use another color here. Divide by 2 and square. What are we going to add on? 16. I heard somebody whisper it over here. Now, here is the thing. I'm going to give that a hug. I have to turn a positive 16. Think about your number line. I have to turn a positive 16 back into a -7. So we're going to have to subtract off, quite a bit. To turn 16 back into -7, what are we going to subtract off? 23. Good. Thank you for helping me out there. If you get stuck on that, just draw yourself a number line. This is what I do. Here's 16, here's -7. How much do you have to subtract that? I'm very much about a visual, like just draw yourself a visual. Now, the whole point is so you can write it as, blank squared. And what would go in the blank? X plus 4. So first of all, do we have a maximum or do we have a minimum? Because it doesn't say, it just says extreme. So it could be either. Well, this one is facing up. So if you have a regular old U shape facing upwards, you would get a what? You get a minimum. It's multiple choice on the test. So I probably had like A and B would say maximum and C and D would say minimum. So if you even do that, you'd be able to narrow it down to like a 50-50, and then you'd have to do the work to find like the actual answer. So this one went left 4, down 23. So it's going to be -23 at x equals -4. So again, the reason it was a minimum is the U shape is facing upwards. It's just like a regular old U shape. So it's going to have a low point. All right, end behavior. Let's write our limits. And for a U shape, for a parabola, they either both go up or both go down. You can't have them go opposite directions. So they're either both up or both down. And in this case, what do you think for that graph? Are they both going to go up or both going to go down? Down. Why down? Oh, good vocabulary. I thought you were just going to say it goes down. Yeah, reflected over x-axis because of that negative there. Basically, if you see a negative, it's negative infinity, and if you don't, then it's positive infinity.
So for this question, it's never gonna be one is positive infinity, one is negative.
Correct, you can't because otherwise then it wouldn't be a U shape, you know what I mean? Like they have to both go the same way. All right, draw a graph of a quadratic, so it has to be a U shape. Solutions, what does that mean? What are solutions? Good, perfect. You guys have such good vocabulary. X-intercepts of -3 and +5. So all you'd have to do is put the points there and then draw a parabola that goes through them. That's it. Easy peasy. We'll do a few more and then I'll give you a halfway break. How many questions are on this? Let's see. Maybe we'll go through 12 and then we'll do a break.
So probably going down or up.
No, it doesn't matter. It just has to be a U shape and go through those 2 points. So your personal preference. If you get a preference on something though, I usually tell everyone to keep everything positive. Just if you get a choice, don't do negatives.
Okay.
All right, now this, you're gonna have to listen to me. This is a direction following thing. And the directions are bold, italicized, and underlined, so I can't help you out anymore. It says solve by factoring. If you do something other than factoring, I can't even do any partial credit. I can't give you anything because you didn't do like what the test is assessing, okay? So please make sure you follow the directions. This one already equals 0, so we don't have to evacuate. You can just go ahead and draw your parentheses. This is just like you did on the quiz. There was a question just like this on the quiz. Now, we may have to guess a couple of tries. I don't know if we'll guess right on the first time. How could you split up 12? Like, what are the options? 6 and 2, 4 and 3. Technically, or 1 and 12. It's not going to be that, though. So what do you want to try? 4 and 3. Okay. It's usually good to start with the smaller numbers. So that's a smart guess on your part. I don't know if it's right or not. Believe it or not, I don't know everything in the whole world. I know, right? I'm so sorry to be a disappointment to you. All right, 6. You can either do 1 times 6, which is probably not, or 2 times 3. Now I got to get them at the right place first. Where do we want the 2 and where do we want the 3? 3 and then 2? All right, now let's check. I always do the symbols last, one thing at a time. All right, what are the outsides giving you? 4 times 2, 8. 3 times 3, 9. That happens a lot. That's congratulations, you're a normal person. That happens all the time. So 8 and 9. Will 8 and 9 get you to 1 in the middle? Yes. Yay. So you want a +9, -8. If you stop there, I have to take off a point and it's a sad day. What do we still need to do? Yeah, like set them equal to 0 and get actual answers. This one would be -3/4. You would subtract the 3, divide by 4. Again, we've made it to pre-calc. I want you to start making that leap. You can do it, all right? And then what's the other one going to be? 2/3. You would add the 2, divide by 1/3. This one you need to evacuate. It has to equal 0 first. So we're going to subtract the 8x. And where are we going to put it on? Yeah, in the middle. Perfect. This is going to be a 2-step factoring problem. Can you handle that? I believe in you. First thing is GCF, greatest common factor. What do you notice? Bigger than 2. 2's not wrong, but 4. So we're going to divide everything by 4. 0 is a convenient number because 0 divided by anything is still 0. So everyone's always like, what happened to the 4? We got rid of it. Isn't that great? You don't want it there. 0 divided by anything is still 0. It makes it go away, which is beneficial to us. So don't be like, where's the 4? We don't want the 4. 4 is gone. Bye-bye. All right, and then draw your parentheses. And how is this one going to split? X and X, perfect. We like when it's like that. 3 and 1. Then do the symbols. Good. Perfect. And then just state your answers. Oh, beautiful.
Does that mean have an f of x on it? Like,
so you can either write f of x equals this function, or you can write the function equals 0. You really can't have two equal signs. So no, it doesn't have an f of x in it because we're actually solving it.
And I'm just making sure when you're checking it for when you're putting the symbols on the last step, it is multiplied, right?
Yes, so outside multiplying gives you 1x, multiplying gives you 3x, 1 minus 3 gives you negative 2.
Okay.
All right, we'll do the completing the square ones and then we'll do our middle of the class break. Again, this is direction following. If you do something other than complete the square, I can't even help you out. And I try to grade the test as you hand them in. So normally if somebody doesn't follow the directions, I hand it back to them. I'm like, here, fix this. But I can't catch everything in the world. So you're gonna have to, pay attention. So copy down the first two terms, leave a gap. And you want to divide by 2 and square. So what will we add to both sides here? 25. Perfect. So it will be blank squared. What will go, go ahead. Because we're actually solving and getting answers. On the front page, we were just trying to figure out how it shifted to get that center point. Like we wanted to know, it went right 4 and down 23. Our goal is different over here. It's a directions thing. Here we're actually solving and we want to go the whole distance and actually like solve it for x. So it's whatever the question is asking for. That's a really common thing. Like, what am I doing then? X minus 5, thank you, before I could even say it, equals negative 20. Our answers are going to have I in them. How do I know that already?
Because
Negative. So what's our next step? Yeah, square root. Now I'm going to just do this off to the side so I don't have to copy the whole thing over again. We're going to have to split this up. The first step is take out an I. Remember that? It's kind of violent. And then what numbers multiply to be 20? You need not dead end numbers though. Like 2 and 10 is not going to work. Good. 5 and 4. So that is going to give you x minus 5 equals plus and minus. Good. How'd he get 2? Because that's correct. Square root of 4. And then this part is I. And then square root of 5. You can't do anything with that. So forget it. And then your last step is plus over the 5. And that's a great answer. Don't discriminate. Actually, it's 2 answers. Yep, perfect. You guys rock. And you're asking great questions. You're going to do awesome on this test. It's going to be your last test that goes in for this first quarter too. So this is a good way to end. You're going to be okay. Now you want to be a good noticer. What do you notice about 3, 6, and 18? You can take out the 3. Exactly like we did with the 4 and the 1 above it. And the reason that that's good is it makes all the numbers smaller. 0 is a fantastic number because it sort of absorbs everything. 0 divided by anything is 0. So just get rid of that first. And then it makes all the numbers littler. You don't get a calculator, so you want to deal with smaller numbers. So now we're going to do the same thing we did over here. Copy down the first 2 terms. I'm going to move the 6 to the other side. Now this one's a little tricky.
you don't have to keep the 3 there.
No, the 3 is gone. We want it to be gone.
You only keep it there when you're doing vertex form.
Correct. Correct. Yes.
Wait,
Well said. Such good vocabulary. Usually people like make up their own words for stuff. You
Wait,
guys
wait.
use good math vocabulary.
Factor.
All right, I heard you guys saying it over here. What are we going to add to both sides? 1. 1 is kind of tricky, but 1 squared is 1. Then don't listen to what she just said. You stick with me. Everyone thinks differently, and it's my job to keep us all together. So don't confuse each other. All right, what's going to go in the blank? Minus 1, good. Equals 7. I'm happy that it's positive. That's good. 2 more steps. It'll be x minus 1 equals plus and minus square root of 7. I don't need to split 7. The only numbers that multiply to be 7 are 7 times 1. And then what's your final answer?
1.
All right, so we are going to complete the square. I am throwing one question on here where you're gonna have to deal with the fractions. But if you remember me saying before, they will be halves and fourths. Do you remember that? Halves and fourths?
Yeah.
If you get stuck, invent something with halves and fourths. That's what it's gonna be. So we're gonna write down the first two terms. And the reason it comes out to a fraction is you want to divide by 2 and square. But 5 is an odd number, so when you divide it by 2, yeah, well, we don't do decimals. It's going to be fractions, okay? So off to the side, you're going to take that 5, divide it by 2, and square it. Just write that off to the side. There's nothing wrong with a margin problem. I write notes to myself all the time. That is literally your thoughts. That is your brain working, right? Now you're going to square both of those. So what is 5 squared? It's 25, and 2 squared is 4. So that's how you end up with fourths. 2 squared is 4. That part usually goes fine. Honestly, that's okay. This is the tricky part. You have to turn a 25 fourths back into a 3. So here's the $1 million question. How many fourths is a whole 3? Good. So I'm going to just write myself a note. Again, that doesn't mean you're stupid to write yourself a note. That means you're smart. It means that your thoughts are thoughting. Go ahead. 12 divided by 4 equals 3. Or 3 times 4 equals 12, whatever, however you want to think of it. So how do you turn a 25 fourths back into a 12 fourths? You'd have to subtract something. There you go. 25 minus 13 equals 12 is what we did there. And then your answer, your final answer is something squared minus 13 fourths.
X plus 1 half squared.
X, well, it's just X plus 5 halves. Oh, I already wrote the squared. It's going to just be this number that you wrote off to the side.
Oh.
And then I'll be happier in my soul if you put the f of x equals. If you don't, I'm not going to mark it wrong or anything. Yeah, good.
So is there, I don't know if it will be, but is there gonna be like a situation where like the 3, like if that number where the 3 isn't a perfect 4?
It'll work out.
It will?
Yeah.
Okay. I wouldn't know how.
And then to get 13, you just minus 25.
Yeah, 25 minus 13 equals 12.
And so
minus 12.
we stop there because it just says.
Correct. It does not say to, that's a good question. It does not say to solve. It does not say to find the zeros. You don't have to do anything else. It's a less complicated problem. If it said to solve, you would have to set this equal to 0 and then keep on going. But it doesn't say that. So we're going to move on. This one says write in standard form. That is like the very first question on your quiz, the one that you guys all did really well on. It's tedious, but if you know your times tables, you're going to be fine. You're going to keep that 3. You're going to write the x minus 4 twice because it's a twin squared. And then just keep going. You just got to multiply it all together. So that'll be 3 parentheses what? I'm going to ask you guys to lead me through this one because I think you guys have probably got this. X squared
Minus 8x.
minus 8x. Good. Perfect. Again, it's just multiplying numbers together.
And the minus 7.
And then, yeah, minus 7 is like, hey, wait for me. All right, and then you're going to distribute the 3. So 3x squared minus 24x.
42.
Okay, then hold on. Here's how you would do that then. Sometimes, oh, I heard somebody say it back there, but sometimes you have to do this. What's 6 times 3? And then 3 times 1, 3 plus 1 is 4. It is 48. If you can't do it in your head, sometimes you have to do that. Good job. Now it's 48 minus 7, so 41. And again, I will not mark that wrong, but it's technically a function, so you know.
What is f of x like specifically?
So it is a way of saying that our input variable is x, and then our output is f of x. So like if you also had another function called g of x, it would be they're both in terms of x, but 2 separate functions, just input and output. All right, and then lastly, we've got our word problems here. This one is just like the one we did in the notes. You have 240 feet of fencing for a pasture, so you're now a farmer. One side of the pasture is going to be against a lake. So here's our lake. I think in the notes it was a barn though, remember? Like, but anyway, this one's against a lake. So here's what we're fencing in. And then you want to call the sides x and y. Go ahead and focus. We're almost done, guys. And then you guys can do a group thing. So we want to do the maximum area. How do you get the area of a rectangle? Hold on, wait, I want to address this over here. Let me think. So the reason we don't need this side of the fencing is we're putting it up against the lake so that we don't have to use as much fencing. So how do you get the area of a rectangle? Yeah, length times which would be y times x times y. Now the problem with that is it's an x and a y. It's two different variables. So go back to the problem, read it. Can you find, you guys need to stop that. Can you find another piece of information?
200.
We have 240 feet of fencing. So 240 is going to equal what? That's our fencing. Add it up. What do you get?
Those three.
Those three sides. So put it together. It would be x plus 2y. You have two of them. So x plus 2y. Now there's an easier way and a harder way. Which one of those is easier to solve for? Yeah, the x for sure, because it doesn't have another number attached. You're going to subtract over the 2y. You wait till I finish the problem. I think if you trust the process, you'll be okay. Because if I keep stopping, we're not going to have any momentum. So I got x by itself. Here's the whole point. I'm going to take this and substitute it in for x. Substituting means you remove something and you replace it with something else. So I'm going to take out that x and replace it with all of that stuff. The 240 minus 2y. How come that benefits us? Like, why did I do that? Yeah, we have y's now. There are no x's. We got it in terms of one variable is the way you would say that. Now you want to kind of let your instinct kick in too. What should you do with this little y that's outside? Yeah, multiply. What word do we use for that though? What's that called? Distribute. Good. So we distributed that. We got a quadratic. Do you see how there's a squared? That's what the whole unit's on, is quadratics. Okay. Now we're being asked for the maximum. That's where the center is. Does anyone remember? And if you've forgotten, I'm going to tell you, but does anyone remember that tiny little formula for the center? It was what we did last time. What is it? Good. Negative b over 2a. So in this situation, and this is a little tricky, which one of the numbers is b? Good. It's the 240. Negative b over 2a, and the a is the negative 2. If you get those backwards, you will catch it because your answer will not make any sense. You'll end up dividing by 2 times 240 and you will go, oh, whoops. And then, I need to reverse them. So that's negative 240 over negative 4. Negatives cancel, which is good because you can't have negative fencing. It'd be like an unfence. And then divide that. What is that going to give you? 60. Good. So what I usually do at that point is write it in the picture. Y is 60. So those are both 60. How could we figure out what x is? 240. Good. So 60 and 60 is 120. So 120 is what's left for x. Did we answer the whole question?
No.
No, because what does it say to find? The maximum area. How would we get the area?
Multiply.
Yeah, 120 times 60. Well, what's 12 times 6? 72. So it would be 7,200. Does that make sense? Just add the zeros at the end. And what are the units for area? Yeah, feet squared. It's 2-dimensional, so square feet. So again, 12 times 6 is 72. And then you just put 2 zeros on the end, one for the 120, one for the 60. Yeah, go ahead. I was expecting questions, but thank you for letting me finish the problem. Half a point. But conversely, if you can't get through the problem, make up an answer and put feet squared, and then I can give you the half a point for the feet squared. Go ahead. Oh wait, couldn't what?
Oh, I said good to know.
Oh, good to know. I thought you said couldn't something else happen. All right. And then lastly, rocket science. You guys are rocket scientists. Rockets go up and they come back down. So these are your quadratic word problems. A ball is thrown upwards into the air, follows this function. We have seconds, we have feet. See what we're being asked for. Maximum height. That's that little formula, negative b over 2a. So negative b. Number is b in this thing? 10 over 2a. Ooh, that's a little tricky. What is a? Negative 1. Good. So that would be negative 10 over negative 2, which is 5. Now it's 5 what? Seconds. How do I get the feet? Plug it in. All right, so let's do that together. 5 squared, 25, but we're going to make it negative. So it's negative 25 plus 50, good, plus 9. Negative 25 plus 50, that would just be 25. Plus 9, 34. So 34 feet. All right, and then that one there, find the time when the ball hits the ground. If it's on the ground, what's its height?
0.
0. So you're going to take this thing and can I change the t's to x's? Is that okay with everybody? Okay. I feel like it benefits us to change them to x's. Set it equal to 0. This problem is now exactly like number 12. It is exactly like number 12. We're going to do literally the exact same thing. Do you see how in number 12 we divided everything by 3? In this one, we're going to divide everything by negative 1. It is the same problem. It is not any different. So when you divide by a negative, everything just changes sign. And then we're going to complete the square. So first two terms, slide the 9 to the other side. Divide by 2 and square. What would you add? Good. I'm speeding this up because we did one just like this a few minutes ago. So blank squared, what's going to go in the blank? Right, good. This side would be 34. Psst, psst. That's the same 34. That's right. Jeez.
That's how I honestly found.
All right, so then square root. X minus 5 equals square root of 34. Why didn't I put plus and minus?
Because you're so weird.
You can't have negative time. Most word problems, you don't get negative answers because you can't have negative stuff, right? If you put plus and minus on the test, I will not mark it wrong because for heaven's sake, if you get the right answer, I'm thrilled. But technically you don't have negative time, so you just want the positive one. Sweet, we're gonna have plenty of time left over at the end here. All right, one more. You can make it. Good job, guys. You're doing excellent. All right, same thing. A ball is thrown into the air. We have seconds, we have feet. Find the time, or times, plural, when the ball is 22 feet in the air. That means you're going to take this equation and set it equal to 22. Now, I don't have a method for equaling 22. I need for it to equal 0. So evacuate. 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 Make it equal 0. And once you do that, you now have the exact same problem that we just did. What's that going to be? -5? Just do what we just did again. It is literally the exact same thing. Just do it again. What's our next step? Yep, divide by -1. I'm writing this for you, but if you can do that in your head, I invite you to not have to write that. Like if you're like, okay, it's all just going to flip-flop, that's fine. Just remember, I'm doing the problem like in front of a whole group full of people that I'm trying to explain it to. So I try to write every last little thing, but oh, actually, this one's going to be easier. Why is this one easier? It is smaller numbers. I agree with that. It factors. If you were to not notice that, hey, Ms. Cole, what if I still complete the square? You will get the same answer. So if you don't notice that, that's totally fine. But this one actually is going to factor. So if it does, it's less work. But if you don't notice and you complete the square, fine, you'll get the same answer. It'll be x -1 and -5. So you actually get two answers, 1 second and 5 seconds. I want to explain to you why that is, that you got two answers. We were finding when the ball is where? 22 feet in the air. So look it goes up and it comes back down. Here's 22 feet. Why are there two answers? What's going up in the air? Right, so it goes up through 22 feet and then it goes through 22 feet on the way back down as well. Cool. All right, and then last one. Hits the ground. That means we're going to take the equation and set it equal to what? 0. I won't write the -1 this time. Are you guys okay with just flip-flopping them? Just make everything change sign. Does that one factor? Unfortunately, no. 17 is prime. 1 and 17 is never going to add or subtract to be 6, unfortunately. So we're going to complete the square. So what would you add to both sides? 9? Once you start churning these out, it's the same steps with every single problem. The numbers are just different. You're just doing the same thing over and over and over again. All right, blank squared. -3. This side would be, what is that, 26? If you put plus and minus, that's fine. For heaven's sake, it's the right answer. But we don't do negative times, so just the positive one. And it'll be 3 plus square root of 26, what? So if you aren't sure about the units, reread the question. See how it says find the time? It's gonna tell you, okay?